Welcome, welcome. Today we're looking at something different. Two digital calipers, one expensive and another cheapo. Is the cheapo any good? Should it even be in the same room? Well, we're gonna find out. Today we're looking at digital calipers, the best against the cheapest. Should be interesting. If you're not familiar with digital calipers, you might be saying, what are these things for anyway? Good question. Simply, they're used to measure the dimensions of an object. That's it. That's all. Outside diameter, inside diameter, height, depth. Yeah, that's what you want to use when you want to get down to precision. On the left, we have the creme de la creme in terms of digital calipers, the Mitutoyo, whatever works for you. It's made in Japan. This is almost a piece of jewelry. This thing is just so well made. Retails for about 130 bucks. Yeah, but definitely worth every penny. And beside him, yes, we have our cheap import. I paid $5. Actually, you know what? I paid less than $5. It was about $4.80. Canadian. So we're talking like $3.75 US. Wow, amazing. Now, is this thing even, should it be in the same room as that Mitutoyo? Well, you know what? Don't assume anything. You might be surprised. The Mitutoyo comes really nicely packaged, definitely Japanese style. Attention to detail is incredible. Even the way they fold their papers, instruction sheets, what have you, even the way they put the battery in there, exquisite, just exquisite. As well, every Mitutoyo gives you a certificate of inspection. It tells you when it was produced, the exact model number. In this case, we're looking at the 500-196-30. Results of the inspection, the tests, what have you. Now, in terms of the cheapy brand, you get nothing. Didn't even come in a case, just strictly bubble wrapped shipping. Yeah. So right from the get-go, you definitely know you're getting a little bit more with the Mitutoyo because, yeah, you definitely are getting more with the Mitutoyo. Surprising enough, calipers really don't get the attention they deserve in the world of electronics. You don't really hear many people talk about digital calipers on that lab or workbench. Too bad, surprisingly, because they come in ultra handy. Whether or not you want to check sizes of components, fuses, gauges of wire, what have you, yeah, they really, really do come in handy. Now, if we look at the cheap eBay version, you know what? Suffice to say, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. The movement here is surprisingly smooth. Yes, it's cheap plastic. It is not any form of carbon fiber like they're saying. It's not a carbon fiber composite. This is just plastic. But for being plastic, it's actually really nicely done. Hey, come on. $4, really? You know, beggars can't be choosers, right, guys? So I'm not complaining here. Believe you me. Yeah, so all in all, fit and finish-wise, I was rather impressed. The external jaws, once again, no play whatsoever on some of the cheaper digital calipers. You'll see all sorts of play here, none whatsoever. Usually that's because what's happening in the manufacturing process is in order to have that nice, rigid, firm external jaw, you require a lot of precision within the well itself when that scale is being moved back and forth. And that's a lot of work. So you don't normally see nice, solid external jaws like you do with Mitutoyo. Also, the internal jaws themselves here at the top, that's for measuring the inside diameter. Once again, exquisite attention to detail. There's not one sharp or rough edge on this instrument. Just beautifully, beautifully ground. Very, very nice. This is one really nice instrument. Now, call me crazy, but I find there's a distinct similarity between a multimeter, digital multimeter, and a digital caliper. They both have that really nice LCD display. They both have soft touch buttons. In this case, you have your off on as well as your 0. We'll get to that in a minute. And you can change from metric to imperial. So, yeah, you know what? I find a lot of nuances that go between these two testing genres, and I think it's kind of cool. So a little bit of multimeter in every digital caliper. Now, in the world of cheap digital calipers, they come in all shapes and sizes. The one we're looking at today is the really cheap, ultra cheap eBay $5 cheapo. Beside that, we have a tack life. Now this is a step up in terms of cheapness. A little bit better quality in terms of the display itself. Big and bold. You still don't have that nice thumb screw here for moving the scale, but it's just a little bit better overall quality wise. And this one was about 15 bucks or so. Then you can, and at the high end of the cheapy digital caliper scale, you have something that really tries to mimic that Mitutoyo experience. You have that metal thumb wheel, you have a pretty decent looking display, and the locking screw itself actually works, does something. It puts a little bit of tension on that overall scale. And I mean, really, in terms of stability and fluidity, it has pretty decent movement. So yeah, once again, in the world of cheap digital calipers, comes in all shapes and sizes. A lot of times on the channel, you'll see me using this little 100mm Shinwa. This is actually Japanese, but it is made in China. But that being said, it's very, very nice. I find it almost perfect for electronics. The smaller size really works, fits well on the bench, extremely accurate. Really, take a look at both of these digital calipers in terms of functionality. They're really quite similar. They both have the power on off button, soft touch button on both, as well as you have that 0 setting, so you make sure you are in calibration mode. There's a couple of extra features on the Mitutoyo, the Origin ABS. I'm not going to get into that for this review because it's really not important. Finally, at the top, we can go between metric and imperial with the millimeter and inch button, which they both support. So yeah, you do have some extra functionality, and it's really powerful functionality in the Mitutoyo, but in terms of the actual measurement game, it doesn't really make any difference. If you've never used a digital caliper, very simple to operate. Most important thing is you want to make sure it's zeroed. So what does that mean? It means when you pull the jaws, put them back, are you getting a true zero indicator? Are you actually starting from a baseline? In this case, and this is why I'm so impressed with this little cheapie right now, is the fact that it is always zeroing. No issues. Very, very nice. Of course, it's not an issue with the Mitutoyo either. Doesn't matter where you go, you always have that nice zeroing feature. More high res, better resolution on the Mitutoyo as well, but hey, they both zero. For a test bed scenario, we've got the following: 2 1 and 2 inch Mitutoyo gauge blocks. Pretty well industry standards, the best there is. Extremely accurate, high precision. We also have 2 metric gauges over here, a 75 and a 50mm, and a Mitutoyo setting ring. Finally, we have a nice gauge as well, thickness gauge. So this should give us a pretty good all-around indicator of the accuracy of each of these calipers. All right, let's start testing. Okay, testing time. Start off with the fluidity, and as you can see, yeah, just really nice movement with the cheapo, quite surprising. Very little friction, and overall just very nice and smooth. Always comes back to 0. It's what we want to see. And let's check out the Mitutoyo, and of course, yeah, no worries on this department. Super smooth, and always comes back to 0 as expected by the Mitutoyo. All right, we're going to start things off with a 1 inch gauge block. Let's see how they are in terms of accuracy. So first of all, we have to switch it to inches, and we already set to inches on the cheapie. Here we go. Wow, 1 inch right on, first try. Oh my goodness, look at that. That is a thing of beauty, folks. When you spend $5 on an instrument and you get accuracy like that, what is not to like? Holy moly. Wow, I am impressed. Better than being depressed, I guess. Okay, let's try out Mr. Mitutoyo, shall we? Wow. Don't let us down. Sheesh karumba. All right, let's use that thumb wheel, and oh yeah, spot on, no worries. 1 inch. Look at the resolution on the Mitutoyo. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, well, you know, I wasn't expecting anything less. Good stuff, Mr. Mitutoyo. Speaking of resolution, any digital caliper will tell you exactly what it's capable of on the caliper itself. Mitutoyo as well as, I believe the cheapo as well. Yeah, it should have. There we are. The resolution, 0.1 millimeter, 0.01 inches. And the accuracy is plus or minus 0.2 millimeters or 0.01 inch. They're all pretty well the same, unless you go for something very, very uber exquisite. But yeah, so basically 1/1000th of an inch is what we want to see in terms of accuracy. Let's try the 2-inch. Up a 2-inch. Here we go. And coming up is 2 inches. I gotta say, I'm really surprised by the accuracy on this cheap digital caliper. I really wasn't expecting such an easy, breezy calibration experience, but well, you know, so far I'm impressed. Okay, let's pull out the Mitutoyo. Try that. Next up, the Mitutoyo. Here we go. 2-inch gauge block once again. Yeah, no worries here. Beauty. .75mm is next. Switch it to metric, press on that button, and we are now in millimeters. And just hit 0 to make sure we are zeroed. Before I do that measurement as well, another really neat feature is do this. When you get a new caliper, do this. Once you've zeroed it, does it go back to 0? Look at that. For a cheap $5 caliper, this thing hits 0 every time. It doesn't matter how fast. Excellent. So this is really proof in the pudding. Does that make any sense? This is really proving itself. Yeah, very, very nice. Okay, here we go. 25mm. No, 75mm rather. Okay. And coming up as 75.1. And 75.0. Let's try it one more time. 75.0. 75.1. So definitely in spec, wow, either within 1/1000th of an inch or spot on. Beautiful. Let's try the Mitutoyo. Next up, the Mitutoyo. Here we go. 75mm. That's what we want to see. 75.0. There we are. 75mm. Spot on. Remember, you don't put too much pressure, just enough to hold that block. Yeah, looking good. Let's try 50mm now. Let's try the cheapo. And 50mm, spot on. Try it again. 49.9, definitely within spec. One more time. 50mm, wow. Yeah, I'm telling you, was not expecting this level of accuracy on a $5 caliper. Holy moly. Yeah, tell me about it. Okay. Finally, we have that setting ring Mitutoyo, and the inside diameter is 5.04mm. 5.004 actually, and look at that, 5.00, spot on with the Mitutoyo. And trying the same thing with that cheapo, and look at that, 5.0mm for the inside diameter. I'm telling you, this is one of the harder things to measure, and this little cheapo just keeps surprising me. Wow. Finally, for the last test, I am going to be using a thickness gauge, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I am not going to look at the thickness. My eyes are turned. I'm picking out one of them. Okay, that's it. I have no idea what the thickness is. And I'm going to start off with the cheapo. Make sure we are zeroed out. Yes, we are in millimeters. Here we go. Let's see, 0.3 it looks like, 0.3. No, we don't have that high resolution like we do on the Mitutoyo. So we are losing something in the cheapo realm. But 0.3 millimeter for the cheapo. Let's try the Mitutoyo. Make sure we are zeroed out. Looking good. Okay. 0.43, 0.43. Well, I'm going to go with 0.43 millimeter. And survey says 0.43 millimeter. Hope you can see that okay. Yeah, there we go. So, in terms of that thickness, yes, indeed, the Mitutoyo came out the clear winner here. Really the first time out of any of the tests where it really showed a substantial difference in terms of measuring capability. All right, come back with my final thoughts. I have got to say, I am totally impressed with the cheapo electronic digital caliper. I was not expecting that level of performance. No way, Jose. That thing really, really surprised me. Cheap doesn't mean junk, at least not when it comes to this electronic digital caliper. Wow, for $5, you are definitely getting your money's worth. No, it doesn't compare to the Mitutoyo in terms of overall build quality. You just can't compare. It's like apples and oranges, so don't even bother. But if you're just looking for a cheap digital caliper that is highly accurate and won't break the bank, well, you know what? You don't have to look any further. $5 will get you a decent metrology instrument. Amazing. Times have changed and changed for the better. The cheapo electronic digital caliper gets a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you'd like to see more digital caliper reviews, don't be shy. Drop me a line below and let me know. Thanks for watching, everybody. To the next one. Keep on testing.